Goal. A keeper can score goals and is allowed to use his hands inside his own area, so he's done nothing wrong here. But you also need to consider whether to abandon the game. If the weather conditions are having such an impact on play and potentially posing a risk to safety, you may be forced to call it off.
Welcome back to the Ref Show with David Hirst and Keith Hackett this week. Let's go straight to Old Trafford and Manchester United's 1-1 draw with Stoke. That would have been a sickener for Jose Mourinho. Stoke equalising at the end through Joe Allen. But he was involved in another big talking point in this game. When I saw the stats from this, 3 yellows for Manchester United, none for Stoke, I thought, good on Bobby Madley, shown some bottle here at Old Trafford. But in fact, there was a big call that should have gone against Manchester United as well. I'm talking about Herrera's challenge on Joe Allen.
I mean, look, it fulfilled the part of law. It was excessive force with speed. It was reckless. It was above the knee. The boot came in and made contact with the opponent above the knee. It was like an obvious red. Now, in fairness to Bobby Madley, he'd been following an attack. He's not the quickest referee. If there's one thing he's got to do, he's got to put some more pace into his game if he wants to really get to the elite level within UEFA. I keep saying it. I think the same applies with Craig Pawson. They're very good decision makers generally, but they lack the pace. And in this occasion, a quick switch in play, out of defence, caught him looking down the channel. So in fairness to him, he didn't have the view. But his colleague should have come in and said, Bobby, that is red. And it's a clear red. He got it wrong.
David, Chelsea's 2-0 win at Hull, just moving on there. Sometimes it's great if referees make an error and it doesn't matter, because Chelsea conclusively won that game anyway. But they might have had a couple of penalties as well. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I mean,
there were a couple of chances.
There's a couple of opportunities there, but I mean, like you said, did it really matter? At the end of it, it doesn't. I mean, that going through the game, that doesn't come into your head. I mean, that's we want the right decision, to be fair.
Is a referee relieved about this? Was Anthony Taylor's performing?
I don't think a referee will be relieved. I think once he leaves the game and if he's missed a situation or he's got it wrong, I'm sure no matter what the result is, he's going to come back and study his own game and what he's got to work hard on.
Indeed, because although he's not in the headlines, as a referee, you know if you've got something wrong or not. Do you think he got either of those wrong?
I think they were questionable both. And I do think in terms of Anthony Taylor, he's the one referee like Oliver, who I think is challenging to become an elite UEFA referee. And they've got all the attributes. I think the important thing is that when he comes out of a game like that, as David has said, like players, like coaches of players, there is a review procedure that allows them time to discuss with a coach, look, could I have done something better? Was I out of position? Did I apply the law incorrectly? All those sort of aspects, so that they don't repeat it in the next match.
Well, we're lauding Anthony Taylor quite consistently on this programme, as we are Michael Oliver, as we did in part 1. Can we add another sort of one of the younger referees, another younger referee, even though he's been around a long time, who's been up there and come down and come up again, Stuart Atwell, to that list? I'm looking at Sunderland 1, West Brom 1. What do you think, Keith?
Well, I was the guy that promoted Stuart onto the list initially. And I always take a little bit of responsibility for the fact that he got his opening season game at Watford. And I decided to put 2 of the very most experienced assistant referees to guide him through that first match, because he was a youngster. Yes. And one of his assistants let him down badly.
This is the ghost goal, Watford Reading, wasn't it?
The experienced referee convinced Stuart that it was a goal. Yeah. And Stuart then took the can and continues to take the can. And it's a bit unfair, because here is a referee that's suffered adversity massively, but he's gone through that mill and he's come out of it, I think, a better person and a better referee. The one thing he's always had is this dynamic sprint and movement. Now he's gaining confidence. The PGMOL have got to give him more regular appointments. If they do that, then his reputation will be built on his modern career, not the incident of the past.
Not the historical one. I think he was 25 when you promoted him to the Premier League.
But you've got a situation, and I say it week in, week out, referees will make mistakes.
Yeah.
As managers and players and fans on the way to the game will make mistakes.
Well, just a few days before that game at Sunderland, the Rotherham manager, Alan Stubbs, was quite unforgiving of what he thought was a mistake Stuart Atwell made in a game at Huddersfield, which I saw Huddersfield, the leaders of the Championship, won by 2-1. Now, we all made it in the press box if Stuart Atwell made a mistake, because nobody saw there was apparently a handball at one end, well before Huddersfield scored at the other, and Alan Stubbs said it was an unacceptable error, and said, and this is a referee who's been dropped from the Premier League. So managers have got to get their facts right, actually, if they make criticisms, because as you say, he's not been dropped from the Premier League, he's actually back there.
Yeah. But that's what managers are going to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually,
he doesn't shout like that when he wins the game.
No.
He only shouts like that when he loses the game.
When he loses it,
exactly. Somebody else's fault again.
Bit of deflection, maybe. But I thought, for what it's worth, Stuart Atwell had a pretty decent game at Huddersfield. And yeah.
Pleased for him.
And I am too, because he's a nice guy as well.
Yeah.
So, Watford 2, Bournemouth 2. This was a terrific game, presided over by the High Sheriff of Grappling. We know who that is, David.
Yeah, I mean, he just sort it out, though.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's there for.
Well, it's just not happening when he's refereeing a game.
Well,
is it?
they know now.
I mean, look, the coaches do their own work. And this is what we're saying. If the referees set a style and a standard and punish the grappling, it'll not happen. No. And what we've seen is a very clear change in the tactics of several clubs in the Premier League. They've gone from man-to-man marking to zonal marking, big debate on it, but what it does with zonal marking takes away that ability to make contact with an opponent and does away to some degree with grappling. Not in its entirety, but it does help.
And it's a better game.
Like Keith says, coaches, managers do their own work. I mean, I've sat in dressing rooms where we've sat there, the referee, we know who the referee is. The manager would come in and say, right, this is a guy that you've got to talk nice to. This is a guy that you can get on him a little bit and he might give us something. This is a guy that does this, does that. So the players know. Now, when you're walking in a dressing room, got Mike Dean today, keep your hands down. Don't touch anybody, because he'll give it.
It should be like that with every referee, and hopefully it will be where grappling's concerned. Although in a week's time, we're going to have a big debate, maybe even an argument in the studio, because Ian Dowie, the expert who's often used on Sky TV, he feels a lot of these penalties are soft. He's agreed to come in and debate that point with Keith Hackett. That is going to be a terrific show next week. Now then, when we get a lot of good performances, a poor one stands out more particularly. Everton won, Crystal Palace won. John Moss, this was a Friday night game. This was a big call to disallow a Palace goal for offside. Now, well done, they got right on that.
Absolutely.
Simon Bennett came in. Yeah. But the Everton goal from Lukaku, great free kick, came from a free kick that you saying shouldn't have been direct, should have been indirect.
Well, the law is quite clear. Where a player commits an act of a dangerous play, if there's no contact, it is an indirect free kick. If there's contact, it's direct free kick. In this instance, there was a clear act of dangerous play, well spotted by the referee, penalised, but should have been penalised with an indirect free kick. He allowed a direct free kick, the ball went straight into goal. I'm thinking, well, that's not going to be allowed. Moss is off screen, so I don't know if he's got his hands raised. Clearly didn't, because he allowed the goal. 100% incorrect, and one then has to consider, this is a referee who is a fairly consistent bottom of the table performer. Every time he goes out, there's a bit of a disaster. And for me, he either needs a rest or he needs taking off the panel. Now, I'm being cruel, might be, but we've got professional referees. Let's be professional. He's not up to the standard, in my opinion.
Certainly mistakes from John Moss are highlighted here more than any other referee, and that's being fair. I mean, that's not a jaundiced comment.
That's not a target. That's
as it is.
Exactly.
Just to wrap up, West Ham won, Middlesbrough won. I didn't notice any issues for Neil Swarbrick, so can I add him to the list of many good performances over the weekend?
I think the weekend was positive for referees, other than the points that we make, and that is why Atwell does stand out a million miles again. But I think that the aim is to get the consistency, to get the movement, to get the positioning, then to see. And some of our referees, the errors that they've been caught out with are because they're not in the right position at the right time. The dynamic of sprinting appears to have been lost to them.
Right place at the right time. You're talking about David Hirst yet again. Thanks, David. Thanks, Keith. Thanks for your company. See you for another Ref Show next week. Bye.